You are trying to stand out and fit in at the same time. Well, it is just pleasant to see you. Glory be to God. All right, I am going to talk to you today about, let me turn this fan off here. I'm going to talk to you today about something that I don't know much of at all, and that is style. So style is the uniqueness of what you are interpreting in terms of your art, the unique lens in which you have lived, in which your art comes out. Okay? Now, here is something that I've been seeing more and 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 more of, is that I keep seeing everyone wanting to imitate anime. Wanting to imitate anime to the point where originally it was American cartoons that inspired the Japanese, and now it's completely reversed. And I get it. I've done the same thing. There are definitely anime inspirations that are all over my artwork, things like that. I 100% get it. 100% get it. But I encourage you that there are things in that you need to kind of open up in terms of your eyes, in terms of like the overall art world itself, that you can draw other inspirations from, you know? And it doesn't mean that you're doing wrong. And then here's the problem. The problem in the philosophy of trying to get your work to look like everyone else's is the exact problem. You are trying to stand out and fit in at the same time. And I don't know if it works that well, right? When you look at, and we're going to be looking at some styles today too. We look at some of my own style and my wife's style and, different shonen jumps styles and things like that. But when you look at this stuff, it's the stuff that's trying to stand out and be its own thing rather than trying to fit in to quote unquote do it right. And I think that in art, in the art world, there are times to quote unquote do it right. If you're trying, for example, a job that somebody wants to do in terms of some contract work, they most of the time do want their stuff to kind of fit into different trends that are happening at the time. And so, and there is some strategy involved with trends and things like that too, because timing is ultimately a big factor when it comes to getting your work out there and trying to get it in front of the right people, because the right people may have been 20 years ago. Because you're not studying the trends right now, you're 20 years too late. So you do have to keep those things in mind, but it can't be the sole thing that is dragging you into this spiral where you're like, how come no one's really checking for what I'm doing? It's like, well, it looks like everyone else. Matter of fact, AI is exactly that process. It is just trying to look like everything else. So if you kind of type into a default in an image generator for any type of AI, it's going to come out with something that looks like everything else at current time. It can do the trends already. So, and this is why you can always tell what a AI anime style looks like. It's interesting. It's interesting because this looks like, I don't know, it just looks like what it is. It just looks like what it is. So, I was wanting to draw something different when I was younger. Okay? I'm an old man now. I'll be 44 next month, which is kind of wild to think about. But I was wanting to experiment and look at some things, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up my browser here, if I can do that. Okay, so I was taking an African art class, and I was very, very, I guess, just really interested in what it was doing, right? I was like, this is really, really interesting. And I saw how some of these people will color their bodies in terms of the very, very remote African peoples, that they will color their bodies with different kinds of paint, and they'll actually make their skin darker to have a higher contrast with these oils and these paints that they put into your bodies. And it might take like maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, and they go out there and they flex. It's really, really, really cool looking. So, but this is a lot of these ancient African pieces of art. They're very archaic looking. So you see these round faces, a lot of these round faces. They're more shapely, and I was like, this is really, really interesting. Like, it's more iconic. So, and I was told that a lot of times in the way that some people think outside of Western culture, they're like, why would you do a literal interpretation of a piece of what you see? So they don't really understand, literal interpretations of things. They try to get the essence of the thing and then communicate that part, which is, again, very interesting. So, but anyway, so I was like, this looks very, very interesting. And I was kind of tired of trying to imitate, anime at that point in time, even though I loved it and still love it to this day. But, it's interesting, right? So I took some examples from this, and I took some other examples, and I kind of made my own style. So you can see here, the influence is kind of clear, especially now I was looking at it. Let me scroll back up here. Yeah, this guy right here, kind of look like my guy right there a little bit, But I wanted to have these almost embroidery type of designs within the fro itself, So, and again, it's not that my work is, I would say, good. It's just different. And the difference, I think, is enough to stand out. And see how the characters kind of shape a little bit different. So you see some of these clear influences that have shaped my artwork. Right? Now, my wife, she also was drawing anime a whole lot, and she was really, really good at it, and still is really, really good at it. Well, I like to say that I'm a drawer, and my wife is an artist. Okay, she actually went to school for that. She actually knows a lot of the fundamentals, and beyond the fundamentals, obviously, she knows a bunch of stuff. I just draw. I'm a drawer, and my hope is that someone will interpret my work to look better than it is, kind of like a one from One Punch Man. But if you guys like it, then that might not ever happen, but we'll see what happens. Might have 2 different versions of it. But anyway, my wife, she was wanting to find a different style herself. And so I was going through the same process with her. I was like, well, what do you like? What do you like? Oh, also, too, the Mega Man illustrations I just love the big forearms or whatever it is. So I kind of, did the same thing with a lot of my characters. Like these big shin guards and these big forearms or whatever. I love that stuff. But anyway. So I was like, well, what do you like? And she was taking a hip hop class, and she really, really took a liking to graffiti. She was really, really feeling graffiti just as an art style and as a concept. She just thought it was so freaking cool. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And so I was like, well, okay, well, draw something that fuses those things together. No one's stopping you. I think it's going to be interesting because, again, with your skill level, it's going to just kind of fit in with what everybody else is doing, and then I can really see how talented you actually are. So, do you, right? So, it's my wife being special. So she's done this kind of graffiti style. I don't know if I can pull it up here or not. Yeah, excellent. So, but you see what I mean? Like, this is dope. Like, quit playing. So it's not like a thing where it's like my wife is my angel, and it's like, no, like she's actually really freaking good, right? Really, she's easy to be one doing my book, but I wanted to have a template for someone to follow and have it complete. Who knows? But anyway, but yeah, like she is really, really good at this stuff, and she does paints. But I want to scroll down here a little bit more. And if you see her being weird, it's because, you know, birds of a feather. Like, so, oh, hey, he's making that stuff right here. Sweet. Yeah. See, like the big forearms or whatever. Like, I just dig this. I just do. I just do. Okay. Anyway, so as we're scrolling down here, you'll see more of this kind of a style. Okay, here we go. Now, just so you know, so like she'll do some of this stuff in like ballpoint pen. This is back when she was in college. She was like doing ballpoint pen stuff. I was like, woman, you are completely out of your mind. Okay. So it has this really, really unique and frankly beautiful type of look to it. It's very aggressive too, but it's very, very interesting. So, but again, if she didn't give herself permission to, you know, do something that she likes, she liked the way this stuff looks. This is her trying different styles, which I think is fun. So this is her style compared to Disney style, some of these other content creators, like just Toriyama style, Chuck Jones. Like, that's really, really cool. And she just was settled with her style. Again, I think this is all done with like ballpoint pen at this point in time. She had a ballpoint pen phase in her life, and it's gone to Sharpie now. But for a little while, she's just coloring ballpoint pen because, again, she's a menace. So, but she is very comfortable with, again, her being weird. Yeah. But she can paint, obviously. There's a painting right there. And let me see if I find this picture of her father that she made. Here we go. So this is a video of this painting that she did of her dad. So again, she has the skill to pay massive amounts of bills. Right? She is very, very good at what she does. But if she was just drawing anime or whatever, would we know how talented she actually is? Would the dope style that you've seen before, would that have even come out? And so I ask you, I'm like, this stuff is dope. I ask you, what would come out if you actually drew in a style, or you saw something and exposed yourself to more artwork? What would come out when you were doing something? And would that stand out more? Right? Let me see if I can find my homeboy on here. Mad Hundreds. Oops. Oh, here we go. So he has this style that he made, and it's just super, well, that's a video right there. But that's just his campaign, Mad Hunters right now. But this stuff, it goes hard too. You know, it just reeks of hip hop. You know what I mean? It just reeks of this hip hop flair. And he does these pieces sometimes in his own style, you know, it's Wolverine in his style, whatever. But see how this is interesting? See how we're scrolling right now? See how we're engaged? Like, it's interesting to look at. It just exudes a certain level of something. So again, this is little vibes. And I'm wondering, what does your stuff actually look like? You know, I would see maybe if you were to make a comic book and maybe your style, then I think that will get read faster than if you try to fit in with everybody else and all the trends and everything. You know, does Toriyama style look different than something you might see from, or a Dragon Ball style might look different than a Yu-Gi-Oh style, and then an SOT style, or like, what do you look like? I want you to draw, you know, put it in the comments too. I want you to start drawing your stuff. Like, draw your stuff. You know, if you love a sort of watercolor look to it or whatever, then go ahead and start doing that. What's stopping you? Trends? Adhere those to a certain degree, but the trends really, so let's say, for example, that, I don't know, let's say that Wu-Tang is really hot right now for whatever reason. That's in the news. That's the trend. The style's right there. It doesn't have to look like anything other than what you need it to look like. I don't know where my homeboys. Like, everyone has different interpretations of how they look at reality, and so it's about taking those little pieces that you appreciate and that you enjoy, you actually enjoy, and making that stuff. Some of y'all quit because you don't even like your artwork. because you know you're imitating an imitation of another imitation of another imitation of for a trend. I wouldn't like making that either. I like exploring what my characters are going to look like when I put them on page. What they look like in a three-dimensional space, from this angle, from that angle. I like to think about those kinds of things. But I promise you this, you're not going to be excited about your artwork until you start being excited about your artwork and pursuing that. Like, you have the internet. Look up some stuff. Look up art all over the world. And look up the old school stuff. As in, like, the ancient stuff sometimes. Look that up too. It's a rich world of humans that have put paint or chiseled something. It's incredible what we've done. And this stuff has been around for thousands of years. And we're looking at one place, one continent for everything now? Like, I get it. It's so dope. You can't tell me that this stuff is so dope. But at the same time, they look at what we doing as dope too. How much has hip hop influenced Japan's art? You know? So, my encouragement to you is I need you to explore some more. I want you to go back to the exploratoriums of your mind and your art, and really begin to permit yourself to experiment. Get trained in some of this stuff. Do something interesting. You know, you can't keep doing your art for the sake of commerce. You gotta actually like be feeling it, because if you ain't feeling it, I promise you this: 9 times out of 10, we ain't feeling it. You know. Now, some of y'all are a little bit too hard on yourselves, and I also understand that too. So I have a video about how, you know, listen to an honest audience person. Someone who's going to be honest about it. You know, grandma's going to be like, oh, this is great, baby. You know, but someone that's going to be straightforward with you, you know, they like it, you know what I'm saying? You get enough of those, then just trust that they're lying to you. Don't call your audience a bunch of liars. Don't do that. But, you know, you definitely need to invest in that a little bit. A lot of it, actually. Because at the time, everything in terms of when Dragon Ball Z first came out, or Dragon Ball Z, you can see the style changes from like early Dragon Ball Z to, you know, towards the end of it or whatever. The style changed a lot because it was coming out of the 80s. It became its own sort of thing. And at the same time too, though, you saw a lot of Mad Max type of art. Said a lot of Mad Max type of, you know, big dudes doing big things, you know. And then you had this goofy looking cartoon called Dragon Ball that was a comedy show, and it did its own thing. And then that style has been the thing that has inspired so many people. I love that foolishness. So why can't that be you? Why can't that be you? All right. In the name of Jesus, I give you permission to actually explore some artwork, you know. to look at some things outside of Japan. To go back in time and look at some more artworks and things like that, you know. You can go ahead and look at the Renaissance. We hear about that a lot, and it is some crazy stuff. But because the ancient stuff, the old stuff, that's where you have to tell and show and display a movie. Some of those European artworks, those masterpieces, you have to show a movie in a single image. And there's a lot you can learn from that. Oh man. But style-wise, there's not much style in it, because again, it's a more reality-based interpretation. Some of them have these strong little hints at something that's going on, and they put those in there using the color, using light and shadow, those type of things, you know. So I'm not saying that, you know, they have no style at all. I'm not saying that. I am saying that, you know, it's good to explore artwork from Iran. Why not? What we call Iran now. Ancient Babylon. Take a look at it. Get something from it. You got permission to do that. And I think that you'll be a lot happier with your artwork, and I think you'll actually want to do a lot more. It's a lot of fun developing your own style. It's its own process, but it is a lot of fun. But okay, that's my time. I love y'all very much. I'll catch you in a remix. Toodles.